Does he's
Recording,
in? Do we see
and
him? I don't see
I'm
him.
sure he can jump in.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for taking, as we were talking earlier, I know you have some options during this half an hour to fill it with, and so we appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us here on chunking. Thank you also for putting your comments in the chat, and it looks like most, or at least a couple of people here have already been chunking their videos, and so maybe we'll give you some new ideas, and maybe you can share some of your ideas with us, and we'll all be able to move along together that way. So anyway, my name is Todd Mendenhall, and I'm a learning designer with Innovative Education at the University of South Florida, the Sarasota Manatee campus. And my partner today is Evan. He is a videographer and editor at the University of South Florida Sarasota campus as well. And I see him there. Hey, Evan,
Hello.
you want to introduce yourself any further?
Yeah, so I do the videography and editing for digital learning. So I'm always working with chunking videos and everything like that. So yeah, happy to be here.
He's a great partner to have. Takes he's way more creative than I am, so he's really fantastic. All right, so let's briefly go over what we'll cover today. So we're going to discuss the basics of what chunking is and why we recommend it for lectures and other instructional videos. We will then pause to reflect on why chunking may be more important now than ever before. We will then get into some of the methods of chunking video and share some best practices, and then we will pause again. And this time we'll do that to get your predictions regarding some common tools we might use to chunk longer videos or to create new shorter videos. We'll then discuss the tools that we have found to be the most helpful with the chunking process, and then we'll finish up with some ideas on the types of brief activities, these pauses that we like to talk about between videos that help students process what they've just learned, and then show a few examples of some chunk learning that we have in our courses. Our last pause of the day will be to reflect on how you might incorporate some of this learning into your own course designs. And links to all the resources that we mentioned during the presentation, just so you know, will be provided on a slide at the end. Feel free to add questions to the chat as we go along, or hold them for an appropriate pause, or bring them back up in an appropriate pause if we don't get to them. All right. So why do we chunk our videos? Chunking is the practice of breaking longer lecture videos into shorter, focused segments so learners can process and retain information more effectively without the cognitive overload. Cognitive load theory suggests that breaking complex information into manageable pieces enhances both understanding and retention. And studies show that undergraduate learners seem to benefit from videos that respect cognitive load limitations. It's widely understood that students today have shrinking attention spans, due in part to digital distractions, but empirical studies offer a more nuanced picture. Attention spans are not simply short, they are contextual and highly sensitive to cognitive load, video pacing, and interactivity. Research from MIT and edX found that engagement with online learning videos dropped significantly after just 6 minutes, regardless of the content difficulty. And other research has noted higher dropout rates in longer videos, especially during rewatching sessions and tutorials. A poll by the University of Wisconsin Stout found that 74% of their students admitted to preferring video segments under 15 minutes, with many citing ease of review and improved comprehension as the benefits. And students working with the more complex material have also shown a preference for being able to skip ahead, rewind, which makes using the shorter clips naturally easier to navigate. Quality Matters, which most of us know about, is a nonprofit organization that provides a comprehensive framework for ensuring quality in online education. And their research in multimedia design has shown or brought them to a recommendation of videos, keeping video lengths between 6 and 15 minutes to optimize learner engagement. PM also found that the more frequent chunk videos greatly reinforce instructor visibility. And so looking at the research out there, we see that there's a broad consensus that chunk videos increase engagement. We see that the number of minutes can vary, usually somewhere between 3 and 15-minute range. And then where you land in that range is influenced by many factors, but the most important being the logical breaking points in a particular content. So we're arriving at our first pause. So cognitive pauses give learners time to process and consolidate the new information before moving forward. These typically come right after a complex concept or a key term is introduced. And we'll talk more about the types of pauses later in the presentation. But here's our first pause. So we want you to take some time to reflect on what we've been talking about with the cognitive load, and then think about what else is happening in society today that may be adding to our students' cognitive load without us even being involved. So if you would, we don't have a giant group. So if anybody wanted to turn on their camera and their mic and chat, that would be perfectly fine. Otherwise, if you just put something in the chat, we would appreciate that too. Just your thoughts on what might be happening today, more often today than it was in the past, that would impact students.
Kayla,
Thank
you
you,
can go
Laura.
ahead and
Go
unmute.
Bulls.
I'm just so used to the functions because yeah. I will say one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of students with like there was mentioned sensory overload. There's just a lot of things going on. So even with online classes, sometimes seeing them, they have all their tabs open, they're paying attention to my class, but they have like other things that are happening too. So
Yeah.
I don't remember competing with that when I was sitting in like a lecture hall. I focus on the instructor. So other things that are taking up some of those resources, like that space for them.
You guys are hitting it. That's 100% where I'm at as well. You know, Rosalind put in the chat the attention economy. That's a cool way of saying it. Everything is fighting for our attention. So I want to do a little quick fun exercise here for the folks here. If you have your camera on, or if you want to flip your camera on, or if you just want to put a thumbs up in the chat if what I'm saying is true. Or a reaction, either way. But anyway, if you can find if your cell phone is somewhere where you could pick it up right now without having to get up and go find it and put it up for the camera to see, I would be curious to see how many of us keep that little fun attention grabbing device, keep it nearby. All right, I am definitely seeing a few thumbs. So yeah, let's these are kind of some of the ideas that you guys have brought up, and also where I'm finding in the literature and stuff. The digital distractions, those are our competition. From buzzing smartphones to endless social media feeds, digital distractions are woven into nearly every moment of our daily lives. And these platforms deliberately engineered with notifications, autoplay, and algorithms curated to grab our attention and to keep it as long as possible. And so there's another one that we also have that's relatively new. It's actually super new, but amazingly, it's everywhere at this point. AI, which is represented on the slide as the elephant in the room, and I think it's been the elephant in the room in every presentation that we've had so far at TOPkit. We're all dealing with, as learning designers, we've all been dealing with the challenge of creating more engaging and authentic assessments to try and mitigate the effects of students using AI. But if AI is changing how students complete assessments, it's also changing how they expect to consume learning content. Students today can ask AI models questions and receive immediate explanations, summaries, and examples. And so this shift towards instant information access may influence how willing they are to engage with long, passive instructional formats, such as the traditional hour-long lecture videos. The problem isn't really that our students are broken or incapable of focus. The problem is that the digital world has trained them to be ruthlessly efficient evaluators of their own attention. Every 30 to 60 seconds, and I'm the same way, whether they realize it or not, they're asking, is this what I'm doing right now, worth it? Is it worth sticking with? Or is there something else that's more interesting, more exciting at the moment? So for us designers and educators, it means our job isn't to make one compelling 20-minute video. It's to make 20 compelling minutes, one small moment at a time. And I think that's what chunking and cognitive pauses can do for us. This next slide is just a AI interpretation of how hour-long lecture videos can feel to students. Hopefully that was mildly entertaining, but also kind of obvious. So let's get into the how of chunking, transforming a traditional hour-long lecture into a sequence of shorter, purposeful video segments requires intentional design. And the first step is to identify logical content divisions. These may be learning objectives, major topics, or conceptual milestones. Each segment should address a single core idea and ideally last between 3 and 15 minutes, which is a window that's been proven to better retain student attention. And each segment should ideally begin with a brief overview or guiding question and end with a summary or reflection point. Maintaining the narrative continuity across segments is crucial. You want to avoid abrupt endings or disjointed transitions, as these can reduce coherence and discourage continued viewing. So just taking an hour-long video saying every 3 minutes I'm going to break is not really going to work. It's more important to get the full thought out and have a logical breaking point before you make that chunk, even if you end up with segments that are 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 1.5 minutes. Planning for chunk segments in advance and recording them with chunking in mind is, of course, ideal, but existing long-form recordings can be edited effectively using video segmentation tools such as Kaltura and Camtasia and many others. And in any case, be sure to name each segment logically with terms that help students relocate the information that they may want to review in the future. Add opening and closing segments. Elements such as title slide with listing the main points and where it falls in the sequence. And AI-based tools such as Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot can assist once you pull a transcript for the video. Those can assist in finding those logical breaking points. When I've done it, they've been very accurate. Of course, you want to make sure that that is an agreement with your instructor. If you're working with an instructor, or if you are the instructor, that it makes sense where ChatGPT says to break it. But it can really help you save a lot of time in doing that. And now Evan is going to take a few minutes to talk about some of his favorite tools for video creation and editing.
So as Todd mentioned earlier, we're going to do another one of those pauses, and this time it's going to be pause to predict. So gives you guys an opportunity to think about what's next with tool time, as Todd mentioned. So so if say you're trying to make a video and you want to chunk out a video that you've already made, or you just want to record something, what are some things that come to mind? What are some software tools that you might use? Feel free to drop those in the chat or raise your hand. I know there's a small group. Canva, Snagit, nice. Those are great. Yes, Clipchamp, Camtasia, Clipchamp, Kaltura. Awesome. Yeah, so those are all really good options. Yuji, I've actually not heard of Yuji. Panopto. Awesome. So yeah, so here's some tools that these are completely free, all of them on here. So Clipchamp, as some of you guys are familiar with, Clipchamp is it's within the Microsoft 365, so it's technically not free. But if you use it already, it is. Clipchamp's a great option because it's pretty new. It's kind of Microsoft's answer to not having anything like iMovie or QuickTime for a long time. It came out a couple years ago, and they have a lot of really cool tools on there. One of them is they like AI text to voice, which is really cool, and they have a lot of stock music and video and lots of cool stuff on there. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with or have heard of iMovie if you're a Mac user. So with Clipchamp, you can record yourself just like on your screen right here, and then it brings it right into the editing software. Whereas iMovie is just editing software, but you can use QuickTime, which is free on a Mac. So if you're all of the Mac users out there, if you're already familiar with that, great. And unfortunately, if you're a Windows user, you can't use iMovie. But there's a couple other options too that are free. There's this thing called OBS Studio. Which is kind of a similar setup to the iMovie QuickTime setup. Just search it on Google and you can find it. For pretty popular option is Canva Video for people who do social media marketing. They use that a lot. It has a lot of trendy transitions and things like that. So also has AI powered effects. And then VSDC, Video Software Development Company. Not the most creative name, but it's you can be creative on there if you want. You can just like OBS, you can search it and use it. They have color correction and all types of stuff like that. So here's just some 5 starting points if you're looking to make more chunked videos. And yeah, overall, I'd say Clipchamp and iMovie are very popular, but here's a comparison right here of the two side by side. And if you want, you can look more in detail at the end of it, but overall, I would say Clipchamp's just a little bit more of a convenient option. And I'm a Mac user, so I want to like iMovie more, but I do really like Clipchamp because it is pretty easy to use, it's straightforward, everything saves to the cloud, and yeah, it's I've been enjoying using it when I have recently. So yeah, back to you,
All right.
Todd.
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Evan. That was fantastic. We really love having access to in our studio designers and editors and videographers. But the tools that Evan was talking about were pretty much tools that can be used by faculty. They're pretty easy to get a hold of, free, and they're great to if you're an instructional designer to recommend to faculty. And like that's kind of where like Evan doesn't really use Clipchamp that much himself, but it is a great tool, easy to use, low learning curve, so great for passing over to faculty. As I mentioned earlier, I'd like to talk a little bit more about what comes between the video chunks. So studies show that chunk videos are more effective when interspersed with interactive elements that prompt learners to reflect, respond, predict, or even incorporate. And so these interactions function as cognitive bridges. They encourage learners to process what they've just seen before moving on. And then the literature activities that go between video chunks are often called things like the segmenting principle, generative activities, or even desirable difficulties. We use the term pause here just to keep the language simple and consistent. So the types of pauses that we recommend are a pause to reflect. This is a pretty common one, pretty easy. Learners just respond in their own words on what they've just watched. Matched to generative learning strategies shown to be among the most effective for retention. Pause to predict, which Evan just used. Learners anticipate what comes next before seeing it. And so here, this activates their prior knowledge and primes engagement with the upcoming segment. A pause to check. Those are very low stakes comprehension questions placed right after a segment, just a little something, a little tidbit from the prior segment to kind of, keep it fresh in the student's mind. That's grounded in retrieval practice research. A pause to apply is a brief task or assignment, but a little bit more significant assignment or task that moves learners from understanding to doing. So it might be having them do something on an Excel spreadsheet, doing something in a real world application in between a clip. And then pause to recap. Those are very short instructor summaries just to bridge one segment to the next. They kind of break up the content. They let the instructor have a chance to reinforce what they really wanted students to take out of a particular clip. Pauses to incorporate. That's probably the biggest one, the most powerful. In this case, that's where learners connect their new content with prior knowledge or experience. And timing matters with all these pauses. You want pauses to be placed immediately after key concepts, not at the end of a module. That's what helps them regulate that cognitive load rather than just adding them, one at a time or all at one time. So next, we're going to walk you through a few ways that we have found for stitching the chunk videos to the pauses for chunk learning. And this first example, I know that we use Canvas in our school. Many of you probably do. If you don't, your LMS probably has very similar features, and you could probably translate this in your mind and make it make sense for your LMS. But this chunking example is from a standard Canvas page with a video segment chunked from a longer lecture. And it's just done with short multiple choice knowledge check questions added between each chunk. It lets students have a place to pause between each major idea. Lets the instructor put in a quick example of what they kind of want students to pull from that little chunk of the lecture. And they're really easy to do. These we've put in using City Labs quick checks, which are available if you happen to have the City Labs Design Plus feature added to your Canvas, which our school does offer. If your school doesn't, there are other options, H5M, that are out there that you'll have to kind of like dig through to find what works for your LMS. This next one is raising the stakes a little bit on your pause and building in accountability by embedding the chunk video clips directly into a Canvas quiz. It's a strong option. Unlike page-based knowledge checks, quiz-embedded pauses can be graded, which gives students a concrete reason to engage carefully with each segment before moving on. And new quizzes in Canvas allow you to place the questions directly beside the associated video clip rather than below it. And that helps you keep the stimulus and the response in the same visual field, again, helping reduce cognitive load on students, requiring them to just kind of scroll up and down for the content. And using a video clip as a discussion prompt is one of the richest pause options available, and it requires no special tools beyond Canvas. Where simple knowledge checks ask students to just recall, a discussion prompt asks them to interpret, connect, reflect, and respond to peers. And this moves the pause into higher order thinking and building instructor presence at the same time. These are best used selectively, of course, because you might want to consider, one or two well-crafted discussion-based pauses per module, especially after a clip that raises a real-world dilemma, because the trade-off with these is the additional time required both for the students and the instructor. And then for those who want to step outside of the LMS entirely, Articulate, especially the RISE portion of Articulate, is a great option. RISE is a browser-based tool that makes it easy to build cleanly chunked, linear learning sequences with a wide variety of built-in pause options, reflection prompts, knowledge checks, flashcards, and more, all in one polished package. The catch here, of course, is the cost, and Articulate subscription is not cheap. If your institution provides it, though, it is worth exploring seriously. If not, the LMS-based approaches that we covered earlier will serve you well. So we have arrived at our final pause, and this is a good one. It's a pause to incorporate. So researchers Mayer and Moreno, whose work on cognitive load theory underpins a lot of what we've been talking about so far today, described this moment of connecting new material to prior knowledge as the point where meaningful learning truly takes root. So I want you guys to please take a few moments to think about something you've learned in a presentation today that you might incorporate into your own learning designs. And please share those ideas in the chat, or feel free to flip on your camera and we can chat face to face. As a final distraction check, though, also, be honest, if you would, in the chat, how many times during the session did you check your phone or get the feeling that you wanted to check your phone, or hop up to do something else where you're distracted? Oh, no.
Yeah, I agree. This was too interesting. And I think a lot of us know it, but seeing the different takes and different pauses, incorporating, as I said, micro learning. We've gotten away from chunking. We've gotten away from micro learning into micro credentialing. So it is nice to see this. I welcome everybody. We have about 5 more minutes left in the session. If anybody would like to unmute and ask questions. We do have a question that's in the chat. Oh, no, she's giving her best practice. Thanks, Carolyn.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of cool extra additional information in the chat. Use of new quizzes to incorporate questions to video, love it. Didn't check the phone once, thank you. I wasn't actually looking for that. I figured everyone would still have checked their phone at least once or twice during this presentation, but I'm glad to see that maybe the pauses helped out in the shorter chunked interactions.
Rosalind, you can go ahead and unmute and ask your questions.
Yeah, hi. I don't know if this is directly related to anything, but I was just thinking about with videos and trying to make more of them for my classes and encourage other people to make more of them. Do you have any feedback or best practices to share about screen recording, or, if you're just recording yourself, like and not doing a presentation per se. I don't know. I'm just thinking about kind of the content I've been recording lately, and it's either just me sitting there talking or it's me like sharing my screen as I show them how to do something. So just best
It can
practices
kind of
there.
it can kind of depend on what the subject is. If it's something where it's a little more technical and seeing you know, seeing your hand move as you're actually doing doing an equation, or seeing your screen with Excel as you're working through something, then of course the screen share is amazing. Um, if you have, depending on your level of technical skill too, like if you're discussing something like a deeper idea, and you just want to have your face be the main thing in it, you can also just pop up a few little things behind you from time to time, but you might need a little more technical skill on that, using like a higher level editor like Camtasia to do something like that. I'd say,
Yeah,
like,
Canva makes
rather
that
than trying
kind
to
of
learn
easy
that kind of
too.
thing, if you have access to, like, learning designers who can help with that, that's great. If you don't, I think you can do really good with Cameo and PowerPoint. Everybody kind of hates on PowerPoint, but I think it has gotten really a lot better over time. And some of those tools that Evan mentioned earlier too, if you kind of like, you have to play with them a little bit and figure out which one makes sense to you intuitively, and then just kind of stick with that tool.
Also, a lot of students are used to watching YouTube videos that have a hook at the beginning of it. And like Todd's been talking about with these pauses, sometimes you could utilize a pause in a way of a hook, like uh, talk about something you just learned, and then where are we going next with that? And then maybe it gives them a moment to kind of reflect on that, and then you can move forward, just like Todd was mentioning.
Yeah, thanks. I know it's hard to compete with all the cool TikTok videos and everything out there now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I was trying to think about how to add some more of those elements that normally catch their attention.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Thanks.
then in the chat, narrated, Tina mentioned you can convert narrated PowerPoints into MP4s, and that's true as well. And you can put little cameos, pictures of yourself into some of those slides, and you don't have to have them on all of them. Um, and record yourself and add those to the slides, and then turn that whole thing into an MP4, which you can use.
Yeah.
I think if you're used to PowerPoint, it's worth playing with the advanced features of that. And then there's also AI stuff that's coming, that's getting pretty good. Notebook LM, if you've had any chance to play with that, that's a Google product. So
Yeah, I was
it's not
watching
something
some sessions yesterday where they were showing some of the videos.
yeah, you can
So
make
lots
little,
of options
just
out
feed it your
there.
information, see what it does, and then if you can edit that a little bit on the other side, because students also catch on pretty quick, if they feel like it's just an AI edited thing that doesn't have a lot of detail or something that they need to
Right. I think the human face in there is important when you can get it in there. So I've tinkered
100%.
with a lot of the tools, and so, but I wouldn't consider myself expert on any of them. Probably time to pick one and dive deep.
Yeah,
But
I think that's true. Like, it's nice you get excited by little features of a bunch of them, but I think, really getting to know one well is very helpful.
Any
Well, thank
last
you all very
questions?
much.
Thank you. Again, thank you for the QR code. We'll definitely everybody connect. And you can also in Sketch get in there and connect with everybody and link them up into LinkedIn. Thank you guys. Everything today is just going so quickly and we're all engrossed. So we appreciate it. And especially on midweek, it was a great session. So thank you all. We are going from here into a 10-minute break. And when we're done with the break, we will have our second breakout session of the day. So I'll see you guys then. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
Thank you.